What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another About Teams video. And in today's NFL offseason recap, we're going to continue with the last two NFC North teams. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings offseason. But now we're going to do the two playoff teams last year, and we'll start with the reigning NFC North champion, Detroit Lions. Made it to the NFC Championship game, blew a 17-point lead, but the expectations are high in Detroit. So far this offseason, we look at what they did on – because the main priority was defense. As we know, they were able to keep offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, sign Amon-Ra St. Brown, as you said, Penei Sewell, the stud offensive tackle for them. So they were able to keep their key pieces on offense. And on defense, they lost a couple players. C.J. Gardner-Johnson went to back to Philadelphia. They released Cam Sutton, cornerback. So – what did they do? They traded for Carlton Davis, a solid cornerback for the Bucs. Was on their Super Bowl team, been a key piece of that defense to what it's been, a pretty good defense always the last couple of years. And then they signed DJ Reader, a main piece on their defensive tackle position to kind of help stuff that run. He's a great run stuffer. And then everything else was kind of just like depth pieces, as we talked about. Marcus Davenport, as a Vikings fan, didn't really like him on our team last year. 1 year done, kind of was not that good. They signed quarterback Amik Robertson for depth. Kevin Zeitler. One of the big losses, though, was their offensive guard, Jonah Jackson, who has been pretty good because that Detroit Lions offensive line has been known to always play pretty good. So they it was a loss for them, but he got paid 3-year, $51 million to the LA Rams. That was an underrated signing, I thought, during this offseason. Lost a depth piece in Josh Reynolds. But overall, when you're looking at offseason, like the Lions, they didn't need to do too much because they kind of have like at least on offense, especially, they have a ready-made offense, 2 solid running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs is a beast. David Montgomery. You got tight end Sam Laporta coming into his second year. Man, he had a great rookie season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that team's got a lot of pieces around it to work with. But I would still have liked some defensive additions. I don't think they did enough to kind of quite mark the concerns about at least their cornerbacks. I know you have Carlton Davis, but after that, it's kind of like just depth guys. So I'm kind of a little bit concerned about the Lions in that regard. They haven't really been able to ever develop that cornerback position, as Jeff Okudah from back in 2020 already off the team. It's kind of, I still think they have weaknesses. I still think they're going to fight for an NFC North title. But overall for this offseason, I'd give them like a C+. Wasn't like they didn't really do too much, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, I was sitting more on the B+ side just because I thought they addressed all the needs, not only in free agency but in the draft. I mean, their first 2 picks were DBs, like you were just talking about. So they kind of got good young guys that they can build a defensive core with. They already have Hutchinson, who's ridiculous. Like, he could probably be Defensive Player of the Year candidate within the next 2 years. But yeah, they got Terrion Arnold from Alabama, who, we all know Alabama DBs, they kind of always pan out in the NFL. But yeah, they kind of filled the holes that they needed to fill, losing those 2 cornerbacks. And Carlton Davis, I think, is a bigger acquisition than some people may think, just because he's been there before. He knows how to win those big games. He knows what it takes to shut. In the Super Bowl he played in, they shut down one of the best offenses of all time. So,
yeah,
maybe not that year, but, they still had Tyreek, Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, and they held him to 9 points?
Yeah.
So he kind of brings the veteran sort of mindset. He's going to be able to mentor these young cornerbacks that they're bringing in. So I would sit on B or B+. They didn't get worse, which I think is a big, big thing. They improved.
I was kind of, maybe it's too harsh, but like a B- because I feel like they still had some room to get better and elevate, and I just don't think they took that next level quite yet. Well, I feel like other teams may have. So
I definitely
I don't think the Lions didn't need an A offseason one, like a C plus or B minus, just kind of like, in the middle, neutral. Like I feel like if you had like a D or an C or worse offseason, you got worse. Like B to A, you got better in some ways. I feel like the Lions kind of like stayed around where they are. They lost some pieces. They gained some pieces. I would say they got maybe slightly better, so that's why it goes C plus B minus for me. But
I think their biggest moves this offseason were the re-signings. They re-signed two crucial guys, so I think that in itself brings them up because a lot of teams would let one of those two guys go. We're going to prioritize one or the other. They were able to keep both. Yeah, so I think that's kind of why I'm giving them.
Because Amon-Ra merged himself into the top 5 receiver last year.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah, so Lions obviously did themselves what they needed to do to remain in contention, at least for the NFC North title, and a solid playoff team. With that being said, I think we'll move into a team that got hot at the end of the year, to say the least, and then upset the 2-seed Cowboys, and then almost beat the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco, the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love is entering his second year as a starter, so that'll be interesting. Some of the key pieces they lost were Aaron Jones. They released him, but they signed Josh Jacobs. Honestly, wasn't a huge fan of that move, considering what Aaron Jones has done for them playoff-wise and what he does towards the end of the year. Josh Jacobs did not have a good year last year. I think people use like the yards and stuff, but he kind of like fell off after that great season he had in 2022. So we'll see. I mean, he's got the talent. We'll see, though, how that kind of plays out. But one of the most underrated signings was Xavier McKinney, safety from the Giants. He's always been able to rack. He's a tackles machine, can get some interceptions, kind of do it all. He was blitzing under Wake Martindale's scheme in New York, so he's kind of a do-it-all safety. And for that price, it wasn't expensive at all. So I like that move for the Packers. Green Bay, I think, the thing is they were the youngest team ever, I believe, was to make the playoffs, or one of the youngest teams.
Average 25 years old or something like that.
So experience alone, like people like Jordan Love entering a second year starting, just the receivers around him like Romeo Doubs. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. They just got a bunch of receivers that they can use at different times, like Christian Watson, if he can stay healthy. It'll just be interesting to see what they do. They're such a deep team and young team. And I think Matt LaFleur is a really good coach. So overall, I would give the Packers offseason a solid B. Wasn't anything crazy, but they did pick up a few key pieces. Couple of risk moves, I think the Josh Jacobs signing. I think it was a 4-year deal. We'll see how it goes. I think Packers, they might be my pick to win the division right now, but we'll see once we do division predictions. But I think they're just going to get better once with more experience, and they got a couple of key pieces like we talked about. So
today, I think we're kind of on the opposite sides of the spectrum. I was thinking more like a C for their offseason. Really? I mean, McKinney is a big pickup for them. That's probably their best pickup this offseason. But other than that, and aside from Josh Jacobs, it seemed like it was kind of a salary dump type of offseason. I mean, they released Bakhtiari, released Aaron Jones. They just released a bunch of guys.
Bakhtiari hasn't played a healthy season in 6 years, it feels like.
He can't stay on the field, which is too bad. But I just can't. I don't know. They didn't seem like they really pushed to get better. And there could be free agents they're keeping their eye on. They could be holding their money for Love because he sat for 2 years. So his rookie contract's coming up. So they're gonna.
Yeah, well, I mean, they already they did an extension signing before the year even started last year. It was a 2-year extension, so he has another 2 years left on his deal. But yeah, no, I get what you mean. I would say honestly, we didn't even really talk about their draft picks, either team. I didn't like the Packers draft necessarily.
Yeah, the Packers draft did not stand out to me at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think both teams. The thing is, Packers are a youth movement team. Lions are kind of in a win now mode.
Yep.
And they did that to get better. They signed their key pieces, like we talked about. I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge these teams because how many moves do they really need to make? Like, once the Packers started clicking at the end of last year, like their defense was solid. An addition by subtraction was losing or firing DC Joe Barry because he's been known to, that just zone cover, get eaten alive. And even in their playoff games last year, like I know it was somewhat garbage time, but Dallas was starting to fry them after like the first quarter. I mean, give or not, people might say it's garbage time, but like if you're playing prevent defense and allowing all these big plays, something's wrong with that prevent defense you're still playing. So
right.
I think just a new DC will help make them even a little bit better. But it's hard to say. Like they didn't make it jump moves like some other teams did, obviously, that are worse than these teams. Like the Lions and Packers are really good rosters regardless. So it's kind of hard to because the players you want at that position are just so expensive, and teams like the Panthers will outbid you for them. So I get what you mean. It's going to be interesting, but I think both teams overall got slightly better or around the same level. So, and for the Packers scenario, I think it's just more experience. Like we said, youngest roster to ever make the playoffs. Very impressive by them. So
you said the Packers were your pick for the North?
I think Jordan Love, the way he played the second half of last year, take another step. Some of these receivers are still so young. Like if Christian Watson can stay healthy, people forget what he did the second half of his rookie season. Like we talked about Romeo Dobbs, and they just utilize like different people like Davion Wicks, that receiver, just like on jet sweeps. They just got a bunch of different pieces that they can use. And hopefully AJ Dillon can have a bounce back year because he kind of was not that good last year. I think they just got a whole team that I really like.
I think I'm still sitting on the Lions to win the division. I still think they're a much more complete team, but I do think the Packers are the team that's going to give them the biggest fight for the division.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be those two teams. I feel like the Lions offense is better than the Packers, but I feel like the Packers defense is just better than the Lions defense, and it kind of, it's what you weigh more. And I feel like eventually, like at some point, the Lions offense, like, I don't know, it's just so tough to see what will happen because the season's unpredictable. But I feel like the Lions, they losing like some depth players like Josh Reynolds could be huge. Like depending, if like what would happen if teams start doubling Amon-Ra and it's only Laporta, because like after Amon-Ra, I have some question marks at that wide receiver 2 and 3 spot for the Lions. So we'll see. But Lions have proven me wrong the last 2 years. They've been great. Especially second. Yeah. But I don't know. I like the Packers complete team, but we'll make official record predictions. Maybe an offseason signing happens again. Like Tyler Boyd to Tennessee just happened this week, which I thought was an underrated move for the Titans. So there's still players out there to change my mind. But yeah, no, both teams really good. Going to be 10+ win teams, I believe. So I'm excited. Is there anything else you want to add to these two teams?
No. I mean, like we said, the drafts were both pretty not that eye opening, and only a few really big signings, and that was both from the Packers. But the Lions, their big signings were just keeping guys that were already there, and Ben Johnson. But
and that's huge. I still can't believe they kept Ben Johnson. So shout out to the Lions.
He sees something. He sees something.
Lions fans deserve this good play after so many decades of piss poor performances in that 0-16 season. So happy for you Lions fans, even as a Vikings fan. Great to see you guys be good. But with that being said, thank you guys for listening to this one. Tomorrow, we're not going to be doing a typical offseason recap. We'll continue that next week, but we're going to be doing like an NFL build your dynasty team challenge, see which one of us can get the better team, mix it up. But thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.